September 1939. The Atlantic Ocean seems calm. The water is smooth, the gray sky hangs low over the horizon. Merchant ships move along the usual routes between North America and Great Britain. For the crews, this is a common job. Grain, oil, steel, medicines, everything the island nation needs to survive. Britain lives off the sea. Every ton of cargo is food, fuel, and air. Then the ships start disappearing. Not a storm, not an accident, not a navigation error. They just disappear. One at first, then two, then whole convoys. The radio is silent. No distress calls, no debris, no survivors. Only the emptiness in the ocean and the lines in the reports. Missing. At the Admiralty of London, the maps are starting to fill up with red marks. Each point is a ship. Each point represents hundreds of tons of cargo that will never reach British ports. Each point is a crew that will never return home. The answer is known. Germany. German submarines, U-boats, began the hunt. They don't just attack. They act systematically. Wolf packs, coordinated strikes, the exact interception routes. They appear where British convoys are most vulnerable. And there is a question that scares the command more than the torpedoes themselves. How will the Germans know where the ships are? The Atlantic is huge. Convoys change routes. Radio messages are encrypted. The information is strictly classified. And yet German submarines greet British ships as if they are being led by the hand. By the fall of 1940, the situation was becoming critical. Britain is an island. She cannot feed herself without sea supplies. Tens of thousands of tons of cargo are lost every week: wheat, meat, coal, fuel. Without them, the economy will stop. The population will start to starve. The army will be left without supplies. Prime Minister Winston Churchill will later say, "The only thing that really scared me during the war was the threat of submarines. Not the bombing of London, not an invasion, not tanks, and the hunger, because the war can be lost without a single fight on land. If Britain stops breathing, Germany will win without landing a single soldier." By 1941, statistics were becoming relentless. The Allies are losing ships faster than they can build new ones. German submarines are turning the Atlantic into a graveyard of steel. Every captain knows that going to sea is a lottery, where the chance of returning decreases with each flight. But the scariest thought is not the loss. The most terrifying thought is the accuracy of the attacks. This is not the chaos of war. It's math. Someone is reading the messages of the Allies. Someone sees the routes. Someone knows the time of the convoy's departure. Someone is predicting the movements of the fleet. If this is true, Britain has already lost, because the information war is scarier than torpedoes. If the enemy reads your orders, you're fighting blindly, and at that moment, another war begins to unfold in the shadows. No guns, without bombs, without a front. The war of numbers, the war of logic, a war of wits. While the ships are sinking in the cold waters of the Atlantic, a place appears in England that even most of the military do not know about. There's no shooting. They're counting there. And the fate of the ocean will soon be decided not on the decks of destroyers. And at the tables of mathematicians. Berlin, 1939. In an office filled with polished wood and cigarette smoke, a German naval officer closes a small wooden box and locks it with deliberate care. Inside that box lies what he believes to be the most powerful weapon in the Reich. Not a gun, not a bomb, a machine, the Enigma. At first glance it looks harmless. A typewriter with wires, a travel case, something a businessman might carry on a train. But inside that wooden shell lives a mathematical fortress. Rotors spin with mechanical precision. Electrical pathways twist through metal contacts. Every keystroke transforms language into chaos. And chaos is the point. Each time a German operator presses a key, the machine substitutes the letter with another. But it doesn't stop there. The rotors rotate after every press, reshaping the cipher again. The next letter is encrypted differently, and the next, and the next. A single sentence becomes a storm of symbols no human brain can follow. The number of possible combinations is beyond comprehension, hundreds of trillions. To a German officer, this is not just encryption, it is certainty. The Kriegsmarine, Germany's navy, depends on enigma more than bullets. U-boats operate across the Atlantic in coordinated wolf packs. Submarines spread across thousands of miles of ocean must act like a single organism. They rely on constant communication, positions, targets, rendezvous points. Without secure encryption, the entire strategy collapses. With Enigma, the officers believe they are invisible. German commanders transmit attack orders in broad daylight. They discuss shipping routes, fuel shortages, patrol grids, all over radio. The signals travel through the air like open secrets. Anyone can hear them, but no one can read them. The operators are trained to trust the machine with religious devotion. Each morning begins with a ritual. New code books are opened, rotors are rearranged, plug boards rewired, settings changed. Even if the Allies somehow broke yesterday's key, today's encryption is a new universe. German intelligence estimates that even if the enemy captured an Enigma machine, it would take decades to decipher its traffic. Decades. The arrogance is understandable. Every modern cryptographer agrees. Enigma is brilliant. It is not merely a code, it is a moving target, a self-altering puzzle designed to defeat logic itself. And yet, it has one fatal weakness. It was built by humans, and anything built by humans carries patterns, habits, predictability, hidden inside complexity. The machine is not alive. It follows rules, and rules can be studied. At sea, German U-boat captains trust Enigma completely. When a wolf pack converges on a convoy, it is not luck. It is coordination guided by encrypted precision. Torpedoes fire, ships explode, survivors float in burning oil. The Atlantic becomes a ledger of losses written in steel and blood. British intelligence listens helplessly. They intercept every German transmission. Vast rooms fill with recorded signals, endless pages of meaningless letters. Mountains of encrypted messages stack higher each day. They know the answers are there. Somewhere in that ocean of symbols lies the blueprint of Germany's naval war, but without the key, the messages might as well be written in the language of another planet. Time is running out. Every day Enigma remains unbroken. More ships sink, more sailors die, more supplies vanish beneath the waves. Britain's survival depends not on winning battles, but on solving a riddle. And somewhere in England, in a quiet country estate hidden from public view, a group of mathematicians is about to challenge the idea that Enigma is unbreakable. Not with guns, not with spies, with thought. Bletchley, England, autumn 1939. If you passed the estate from the road, you would see nothing unusual, a Victorian mansion surrounded by trees, quiet lawns, a railway station nearby. No barbed wire, no watchtowers, no signs warning trespassers. It does not look like a battlefield. And yet this house will become one of the most important fronts of the entire war. The British government purchases Bletchley Park in secrecy. Officially, It is just another administrative site. Unofficially, it becomes the center of Britain's code-breaking effort, a place so secret that even most of the people working there do not fully understand what the others are doing. The war arrives not with tanks, but with typewriters. Inside the mansion and the hastily built wooden hut surrounding it, an army assembles. Not soldiers, not spies in trench coats, but civilians recruited through the strangest criteria imaginable. Crossword champions, chess masters, mathematicians, linguists, classics scholars, engineers, people who think sideways. British intelligence realizes that Enigma cannot be defeated by traditional military thinking. It requires minds comfortable with abstraction, pattern recognition, and obsessive attention to detail. They place recruitment ads disguised as newspaper puzzles. Those who solve them are quietly contacted and invited to interviews that feel more like riddles than job offers. Many recruits arrive without knowing what they've signed up for. They are sworn to secrecy immediately. Families are told nothing. Letters home are censored. Conversations are restricted. The entire operation exists inside a bubble of silence. Bletchley Park begins to expand at terrifying speed. Wooden huts appear almost overnight. Each hut specializes in a fragment of the problem: naval traffic, Air Force signals, Army encryption, translation, statistics, machine engineering. No one sees the whole picture, only fragments. And the fragments are overwhelming. Every day German transmissions flood in. Intercept stations along Britain's coast record thousands of encrypted messages. They arrive in stacks, paper rolls covered in nonsense text, endless columns of letters that refuse to yield meaning. The code breakers sit for hours, staring at patterns that may not exist. They search for repetition, predictable phrases, human habits buried inside mechanical encryption. The Germans are disciplined, but they are still human, and humans make mistakes. A repeated greeting, a predictable weather report, a familiar sign-off. Tiny cracks begin to appear, but Enigma resets every midnight. Even if today's key is found, tomorrow erases the victory. The pressure becomes unbearable. Britain is fighting a war on a clock that resets daily. Each morning, the mathematicians must start again from zero. If they fail to break the new key fast enough, that day's intelligence becomes useless. Convoys sail blind. Ships die without warning. The atmosphere at Bletchley is unlike any other military installation. There are no uniforms, no salutes. People work in sweaters and rumpled suits. Teacups sit beside classified documents. Cigarette smoke curls above stacks of encrypted intercepts. Exhaustion becomes normal. Sleep is optional. Failure is unacceptable. Some recruits break under the pressure, others thrive. What unites them is a shared understanding. This is not academic work. Every unsolved cipher equals real deaths in the Atlantic. The mathematicians are not abstract thinkers in isolation. They are participants in a silent battle measured in tonnage sunk and sailors drowned. And among these civilians walks a man who will change the nature of the war. He is awkward, brilliant, detached from social convention. He speaks in bursts of clarity and long silences. Many colleagues do not know what to make of him. His name is Alan Turing, and he believes the unbreakable machine can be broken. Alan Turing does not look like a war hero. He is thin, awkward, and often lost in thought. His clothes are wrinkled, his tie is usually crooked. He avoids small talk and struggles with social rules that seem obvious to everyone else. Many colleagues initially mistake him for eccentric rather than extraordinary. They are wrong. Turing sees the world as systems. Where others see confusion, he sees structure. Where others see chaos, he searches for rules. Enigma to him is not magic. It is a machine, and machines obey logic. His insight is simple and revolutionary. You do not defeat Enigma by guessing the message. You defeat it by attacking the process. Every encrypted message must follow mechanical constraints. Letters cannot encrypt to themselves. Certain patterns must repeat. Operators make predictable choices under stress. Even in war, humans cling to habit. Turing realizes that the enemy's greatest weakness is not the machine. It is the operator. But logic alone is not fast enough. The scale of the problem is overwhelming. Even if hundreds of mathematicians worked non-stop, they could not test combinations quickly enough before the daily reset. Midnight would erase their progress. The Germans would change the key, and the puzzle would begin again. So Turing proposes something radical, a machine that thinks faster than humans. At the time, this idea borders on science fiction. Machines calculate. They do not reason. They do not search abstract possibilities. They do not make logical decisions. Turing insists they can. He designs a device that does not try to read German. It tries to eliminate impossibilities. Each rotor configuration is tested mechanically at impossible speed. The machine spins through combinations like a storm of mathematics, narrowing the universe of possibilities until only one remains. He calls it the bomb. Military officials are skeptical. The design looks absurd, rotating drums, wires, panels that resemble an industrial nightmare. It is loud, temperamental, and expensive. Some officers believe it is a waste of precious wartime resources. But the situation in the Atlantic leaves no room for caution. Ships are still sinking. The Admiralty approves construction. When the first bomb begins operation, the room fills with mechanical thunder. Rotors spin with relentless rhythm. Operators feed in assumptions, fragments of guessed words called cribs. The machine attacks the cipher not by intelligence, but by brute logic. It hunts contradictions. Every false path collapses instantly. Hours pass. Then a bell rings. A possible solution. The room freezes. Code breakers rush to verify the settings. They reconstruct the Enigma configuration by hand. They re-encrypt the intercepted message. And for the first time, the letters become words. German words. Clear, readable, alive. The silence is broken by a single realization shared by everyone in the room. The machine worked. Not perfectly, not consistently, but enough. A door has opened, and beyond that door lies the enemy's mind. The first success is not celebrated. It is whispered. Inside Hut 8 at Bletchley Park, a decrypted naval message lies on the table like a living thing. The German text is still warm from the machine that revealed it. The words describe coordinates, patrol grids, submarine positions. This is not theory anymore. This is operational intelligence. For months, British convoys have sailed blind into wolf packs. Now, for the first time, the Admiralty can see the predators before they strike. The information travels up the chain in absolute secrecy. Even senior naval officers are not told where it comes from. They are simply instructed to reroute ships. A convoy turns north instead of west. U-boats wait in empty water. Nothing happens, and that nothing is historic. For the sailors aboard those ships, it feels like luck. Calm seas, a quiet crossing, another successful delivery. They do not know they were ghosts passing through a battlefield that never materialized. At Bletchley, The code breakers understand the scale of what just occurred. They did not sink a submarine. They did not fire a shot. They erased a battle before it began. But victory brings terror. Because Enigma is not permanently broken, each success is temporary. The Germans can change procedures at any moment. A new rotor, a new discipline, a new habit. One improvement could close the window forever. The code breakers now live inside a race measured in hours. Every midnight resets the universe. Each morning begins with a wall of new encrypted traffic. The bombs spin again. Operators chase patterns again. Some days they win early. Some days they fail completely. When they fail, convoys die. The connection between mathematics and death becomes brutally personal. The emotional toll grows heavy. Young women operating the machines begin to understand that their work determines whether strangers live or drown. Mathematicians who once pursued abstract beauty now track shipping losses with grim precision. Every delay equals tonnage sunk. Every error equals names added to casualty lists, and yet the outside world remains silent. The British public hears nothing of Bletchley Park. Newspapers report naval losses without explanation. Families receive telegrams. Sons disappear beneath the Atlantic. The war feels random to those watching from home, but inside Hut 8, nothing is random. It is arithmetic. German naval discipline becomes the next battlefield. Operators grow careless under pressure. They reuse message formats. They include predictable weather phrases. They send long reports instead of short bursts. Each human shortcut becomes an opening. The code breakers exploit every weakness. The bombs multiply. Rooms fill with mechanical noise. The estate transforms into an industrial cathedral of logic. Electricity hums through cables like blood through veins. Britain is building a thinking weapon, and the Germans never see it. From their perspective, the Atlantic War continues as planned. Some convoys escape, some are destroyed. It appears to be the natural rhythm of combat. They attribute Allied successes to improved escort tactics, better radar, more destroyers. They never suspect that their secrets are already compromised. For the first time in history, a war is being shaped by invisible knowledge. Decisions are made not by force, but by foresight. The side that sees first survives, and Bletchley has begun to see. Success creates a new kind of nightmare. By 1942, Bletchley Park is reading German naval traffic with increasing consistency. Not perfectly, not every day, but often enough to influence the Atlantic War. Convoys avoid wolf packs. Destroyers intercept submarines. Shipping losses begin to stabilize. And with success comes a terrifying realization. If Germany discovers the code is broken, Enigma will change overnight. The entire advantage will vanish. This knowledge traps the British in a moral paradox. Intelligence is only valuable if it remains secret. But secrecy requires sacrifice. There are moments when Bletchley sees an attack coming and does nothing. They watch, they calculate, they let it happen, because preventing every disaster would expose the truth. In the Admiralty war rooms, decisions become colder than steel. Officers receive decrypted warnings that they cannot fully act upon. A convoy is too exposed. A submarine ambush is certain. The math is clear. Saving those ships risks revealing the source. Losing them protects the larger war, and so men die to protect a secret. This is the hidden arithmetic of intelligence warfare. Lives weighed against probability. Immediate tragedy traded for long-term survival. The code breakers understand it, even if they are never told explicitly. Some begin to suspect the pattern, some refuse to think about it. They continue working because the alternative is worse. If Enigma closes, the Atlantic collapses again. Britain starves. The war shifts in Germany's favor. The sacrifice, brutal as it is, becomes part of a larger calculus. Lose some ships to save the fleet. Meanwhile, Germany grows more confident. U-boat commanders celebrate early successes. Admiral Karl Dönitz believes his submarine campaign is tightening around Britain's throat. He requests more boats, more pressure, more aggression. From Berlin's perspective, victory seems within reach. They do not know their battlefield is transparent. Every intercepted message becomes a ghost, whispering inside British strategy rooms. Allied escorts appear in exactly the right places. Air patrols arrive at impossible moments. Submarines vanish without understanding why. Some German captains begin to suspect betrayal. They blame spies, radar, luck, weather. They never imagine the truth. Their own words are guiding the enemy. At Bletchley, exhaustion deepens. The staff has grown into the thousands. Linguists translate non-stop. Analysts track patterns across months of traffic. Engineers maintain bombs that never sleep. The estate glows at night like a hidden city of thought, and yet no one can talk about it. Not to spouses, not to friends, not to history. They are winning a war that officially does not exist. The psychological burden becomes immense. To know you are saving lives and simultaneously allowing others to die creates a silent fracture inside the mind. Some workers cope with humor, others with routine, many with denial. They focus on the puzzle because the puzzle is cleaner than the consequences. Each solved key is a small act of rebellion against chaos. Each decrypted message is proof that reason can still impose order on war. The machines spin. The numbers align. For a moment, the universe makes sense. Outside, ships still burn, but fewer than before. And in the language of total war, that is victory. The Atlantic changes, not gradually, not subtly, abruptly. For years, German submarines dominated the ocean like apex predators. Convoys were hunted, escorts were overwhelmed, merchant sailors expected death as part of the job description. The Atlantic was a machine that consumed ships. Then the machine begins to fail. Convoys start arriving intact, not occasionally, consistently. U-boats vanish mid-patrol. Entire wolf packs disappear without explanation. German captains report increasing encounters with Allied aircraft appearing out of empty sky. Destroyers intercept with unnatural precision. Escort carriers close distances that should have been impossible to predict. From Berlin's perspective, the war has turned irrational. Admiral Karl Dönitz studies the reports in disbelief. His submarine force was designed as a mathematical weapon, a tonnage war. Sink ships faster than Britain can replace them. Starve the island. Force surrender. It was a strategy built on numbers. Now the numbers are collapsing. Loss rates spike. Experienced crews vanish. Replacement submariners are rushed through training and sent into a killing field they barely understand. Radio traffic grows tense. Command messages become urgent. Demands for explanation echo through naval headquarters. There is no explanation because the battlefield itself has changed shape. Allied escorts no longer wander blindly. They move with intention. Aircraft patrol exactly the right sectors. Hunter-killer groups close traps around submarines before torpedoes are fired. It feels, to German crews, as if the ocean itself has betrayed them, and in a sense it has. Every Enigma message still leaves their radios with perfect confidence. Operators trust the machine as they always have. They send patrol reports, fuel requests, contact sightings. The signals travel invisibly across the Atlantic and land directly in British hands. At Bletchley Park, decrypted traffic flows into operational command faster than ever. The process has become industrial: interception, decryption, translation, distribution, a pipeline of intelligence feeding the Allied war machine in near real time. The British call it ultra. The word is small. The impact is enormous. Ultra does not win battles alone. It guides them. It transforms uncertainty into geometry. The Atlantic ceases to be random. It becomes mapped, measured, predictable. Every U-boat becomes a coordinate in a system, and systems can be defeated. In May 1943, the breaking point arrives. German submarine losses reach catastrophic levels. In a single month, over 40 U-boats are destroyed. Crews die faster than replacements can be trained. Dönitz faces a reality he once thought impossible. His elite force is being annihilated. He withdraws the fleet from the North Atlantic. The Wolf packs retreat. For the first time since the war began, the shipping lanes breathe. Convoys cross with manageable losses. Supplies flood into Britain. American industry pours men and material across the ocean. The invasion of Europe, once a distant dream, becomes logistically possible. The Atlantic, the artery of the Allied war effort, is open, and almost no one knows why. Publicly, the victory is credited to radar, escort carriers, improved tactics, and bravery. All of these are true, but incomplete. Beneath the visible war runs the hidden current of intelligence. The silent war of code breakers has tipped the balance. The ocean did not turn by accident. It turned because a machine was understood, because logic outran secrecy, because somewhere in England, thousands of civilians solved a puzzle faster than Germany could hide it, and in doing so, they changed the trajectory of the war. Victory arrives quietly at Bletchley Park. There is no parade, no medals, no public acknowledgement. By 1944, the code-breaking operation has become one of the largest secret organizations in British history. More than 9,000 people work behind the fences of silence. They have helped turn the Atlantic. They have shaped the air war. They have influenced campaigns across Europe and North Africa. And officially, they do not exist. Every worker at Bletchley signs the Official Secrets Act. The oath is absolute. They cannot discuss their work during the war. They cannot discuss it after the war. They cannot discuss it with family, friends, or historians. The secret is designed to outlive them. So when Allied victories begin stacking across Europe, the code breakers watch like ghosts. They read headlines that describe bravery and tactics and equipment, all true, but incomplete. They know there is another layer beneath the story, a hidden architecture of intelligence that made those victories possible, and they must pretend they were never part of it. The emotional weight is strange and isolating. Some workers return home on leave and sit at dinner tables listening to relatives debate the war. They hear wrong conclusions, false assumptions, oversimplified narratives. They cannot correct them. They smile and remain silent. Inside Bletchley, the work never slows. German encryption evolves. New systems appear. New puzzles replace old ones. Each solved cipher births another challenge. The war accelerates, and the code breakers run to keep pace. Exhaustion becomes normal. Many workers are barely out of school. Young women operate bombers for 12-hour shifts. Linguists translate until their eyes blur. Analysts collapse into sleep in cramped dormitories only to wake and return to the same rotating storm of signals. There is no dramatic moment where they feel they have won. There is only continuation. The war outside grows louder. Bombing campaigns intensify. Invasions are planned. Armies move across maps. And inside the huts, pencils scratch paper while machines spin endlessly. The code breakers exist in a suspended world where time is measured not in days, but in keys broken before midnight. Some cope with humor. Bletchley develops its own culture. Inside jokes, rituals, quiet friendships formed under pressure. Others retreat inward. The work demands focus so intense that personal identity begins to dissolve into routine. You are not a person. You are a function in a machine. And yet, they understand the stakes. Every decrypted message is a thread pulled from the fabric of German command. Every thread weakens the structure. The war shortens by increments, invisible to the public, but measurable to those inside the system. Historians will later estimate that code breaking shortened the war by years. But in the moment, no one thinks in years. They think in ships saved, cities spared, lives extended. And they continue, because stopping is not an option. The secret must hold until the end. Even when victory becomes inevitable, even when Germany collapses, even when celebrations erupt across Europe. At Bletchley Park, the reaction is muted. Workers pack files, burn documents, dismantle machines. Evidence of the operation disappears deliberately. The estate returns to quiet. The people walk away, carrying the knowledge of what they did, and the world never thanks them. When the war ends, the world celebrates generals. It does not celebrate mathematicians. Alan Turing walks away from Bletchley Park without ceremony. No parade, no decoration equal to what he has done. His work remains classified. The victory he helped engineer cannot be spoken aloud. Officially, he returns to civilian life as just another scientist. But the war has changed him. At Bletchley, Turing did not simply help break enigma. He helped invent a new idea, that machines could process logic at inhuman speed. The bombs were not just tools of war. They were ancestors of a new species, the modern computer. Turing understands this immediately. While the public rebuilds cities and economies, he begins imagining a future built on computation, electronic brains, universal machines, devices that could simulate reasoning itself. His papers outline concepts that will not fully exist for decades. He is thinking beyond the century he lives in, and yet his personal life exists in a society that has not advanced at all. Post-war Britain returns to its old laws, old prejudices, old fears. Homosexuality remains a crime. The nation that depended on Turing's genius now considers his identity illegal. In 1952, he is arrested. The charge is not espionage, not treason, not violence, indecency. The trial is clinical and humiliating. Turing does not deny who he is. He does not apologize. The court offers a choice, prison or chemical castration. He chooses the injections. Synthetic hormones alter his body. His health declines. His security clearance is revoked. The government erases him from sensitive work. The man who protected the nation is now treated as a threat to it. He becomes isolated. Friends notice changes, mood swings, withdrawal. The brilliant clarity that once illuminated rooms dims behind a wall of quiet exhaustion. His contributions remain secret. He cannot defend himself with the truth. He cannot say, I helped win the war. The oath still binds him. In 1954, Alan Turing is found dead in his home. A half-eaten apple sits nearby. The coroner rules suicide. He is 41 years old. The world barely notices. Newspapers print short obituaries, no national mourning, no recognition of the scale of loss. To most people, he is an obscure academic. The secret of Bletchley still holds. The architect of a hidden victory disappears into footnotes. Decades pass before the truth emerges. When government archives finally open, historians reconstruct what happened inside the huts. The scale shocks the public. The invisible war becomes visible. Names surface. Stories return. And Alan Turing's shadow grows into a monument. He is recognized as a founder of computer science, a pioneer of artificial intelligence, a hero of the Atlantic War. But recognition arrives too late for the man who carried the burden. His story becomes a warning, etched into history. Nations are capable of depending on genius while destroying the person who provides it. Progress in technology does not guarantee progress in morality. The machine that helped defeat tyranny was built by a human being denied dignity by his own society. And that contradiction lingers longer than victory. The war ends in 1945. Cities burn, empires collapse, borders shift, armies demobilize. The world counts its dead and begins the slow work of rebuilding. To most people, victory feels like an ending. But at Bletchley Park, it was a beginning. The machines built to defeat Enigma did more than shorten a war. They proved a concept that would redefine civilization. For the first time in history, humanity had created systems capable of processing logic faster than any mind alive. The bombs were crude, loud, mechanical beasts, but they were ancestors, the first heartbeat of the digital age. Engineers who worked in secrecy carry their knowledge into universities, laboratories, and emerging industries. Wartime necessity becomes peacetime innovation. Circuits shrink, relays become electronics, vacuum tubes become transistors. The dream of a universal computing machine moves from classified rooms into public research. The 20th century pivots quietly. Within a generation, machines born from wartime cryptography will calculate trajectories, model weather, guide aircraft, and eventually connect continents. Every modern computer traces a lineage back to that hidden estate in England where mathematicians fought a silent war against a cipher. The Atlantic campaign becomes more than a naval victory. It becomes proof that information is a weapon equal to steel. Control of knowledge shapes the battlefield as surely as armies do. The lesson echoes into the Cold War, into space exploration, into the architecture of the Internet itself. The future is built on code, and code was first treated as a battlefield at Bletchley. For decades after the war, veterans of the project live ordinary lives carrying extraordinary memories. Teachers, clerks, engineers, parents. They watch the computer age bloom and recognize pieces of it, echoes of the huts, the machines, the sleepless nights chasing patterns. Some never speak of it, even after secrecy lifts, because the habit of silence becomes part of them. When the story finally reaches the public, it reshapes historical understanding. The Second World War is no longer just tanks and bombers. It is also equations and logic. The victory belongs not only to soldiers, but to minds that transformed mathematics into survival. Bletchley Park becomes a museum. Visitors walk through restored huts. They see replicas of Bombays. They read decrypted messages. They stand in rooms where history pivoted quietly and feel the strange intimacy of proximity. The war feels different there, less cinematic, more human. A victory built on concentration, doubt, and relentless reasoning. The lesson endures. Modern warfare still depends on encryption and decryption. Intelligence agencies across the world fight the same invisible battles with more advanced tools. Cyber war replaces radio signals, but the principle remains unchanged. Whoever controls information controls outcomes. The mathematicians did not just help win a war, they revealed the shape of the future, and that future is still unfolding. Every message sent across the internet, every secure transaction, every satellite link carries the ghost of that first hidden war. The Atlantic is quiet now. Merchant ships cross safely. The wolf packs are gone. But the invisible battlefield never disappeared. It simply evolved. And it began in a house with no name, where people who could not speak of their victory changed the course of history with nothing but logic and machines.